But to be fair, if you're going to test ride in the wet, this is day to do it, isn't it? Now, no doubt the commuters amongst you, if there are any, will laugh at the idea of going out for a rain test ride, being that you get to do that with the commute, don't you? However, like a lot of leisure bikers that don't commute, and being a relatively new road rider, I'm going through the learning by doing process, a somewhat damp process of finding out how difficult it is to keep rain out when you're on a bike for more than an hour or so and chuck and rain it with 100-mile-an-hour wind on the motorway because it's blowing a storm as well as you're running at the speed limit. I guess it's not rocket science, is it, that it should be difficult to keep water out with those sorts of pressures, but it is. Anyway, so what problems have I had with the leaking? So I've had flooding boots. Now, to be fair, that was on a very extreme ride back from the Harwich ferry port at night in pouring rain, blowing gales, and there was just huge amounts of standing water on the motorway, and it, obviously I think there must have been blasts of spray going off my front wheel and onto my boots and textile trousers. Anyway, so I think it was severe enough that it drove water up under the front and over my relative short boots, and my boots flooded. And so by the time I got home, luckily it was the last leg of a trip to the Motocross of Nations in Holland, actually. Luckily my last stop was home base, which was fortunate, so because I then had several days to dry out. Anyway, so I've had that, and the answer to that is taller boots. I mean, that's, I'm sure most of you have figured that out already. I had to learn that the hard way. So I've got some nice little TCX sort of half-length adventure boots, which I really like them. Right, they're quite reasonably stiff to walk around in, but walking for 10 to 15 minutes is quite practical. They look quite good, and hopefully they will have knocked that particular problem on the head. Had water in the lap at times, and it's been really hard to find out whether that's the textile trousers failing or whether it's water going through the zips on the jacket that I had at the time at about the top point of the true. So that's a little bit hard to tell. The other big issue that I've had is I like to have, or I traditionally like to have my gloves under the jacket, and I found that it's quite difficult to get that done up neatly enough. Back in here, to have that done up neatly and tightly enough on a really wet motorway ride that you don't get water down your sleeves and finish up with the bottom of your of your arm all the way out down to the elbow soaking with water. So I think those are the main issues. So my solutions at the moment are these little TCX boots, which I'm sure will be absolutely fine. I've got the same textile trousers. However, on the jacket side, that's sort of the big jacket and gloves are the big evolution in my thinking. So I think it'd be unfair to say that I'm a cheapskate, but I don't like to spend money that I don't need to spend. And I also just sort of, I guess, have a little bit of an issue with spending like 700 quid on a bloody riding jacket alone. I mean, it's just, it's a lot of money for a jacket, isn't it? A Klim jacket or something like that, and it might be worth it, and maybe I should, but I do biking is a hobby, and I have several bikes, and I have my own budgets, and that's just a lot of money for a jacket. So I think I've come to the conclusion my sort of £200 laminated jackets are absolutely fine for a shower and a bit of light rain, but I'm sure there are ones that can do it, but it's a big ask for them to survive, a couple of hours on the motorway in a roaring storm, like I say, with 100-mile-an-hour relative wind potentially if you're going into a headwind. Here we go. So this is wet, isn't it? And my boots are going to eat this up, aren't they? So I'll still lift my feet anyway. Being a bit of a girl, I know. Sorry. It's suppose I'm not supposed to say that these days. So apologies to any young ladies out there I've just offended. It's a hangover from my age. Quite inappropriate, because my girls are very, very, very tough girls. Actually, they're bloody tougher than I am. It's another story, you know. I have a daughter that survived bloody 4 days on Dartmoor in her officer training course in horrific winter conditions in Britain. God, I would have died. So yeah, so sorry about that. It doesn't mean what I say, it's just a turn of phrase, right? Anyway, so that's completely detracted from where I'm going, hasn't it? Right, so back to the important stuff. Jackets and gloves, right? Yeah, so jackets. So I've come to the conclusion that it's a big ask for that level of jacket, and actually my favourite jacket at the moment is what's called an Oxford Hardy wax cotton jacket that I got recommended by the TMF, the Missenden Flyer. It's one of his favourite jackets, and I thought, oh yeah, I like that, and I bought one, and it's just fantastic. I love it. It's comfortable, it's warm, it looks good, you know, so you look quite presentable when you're going for a coffee, when we're allowed to do that again. But I just love it. It's a great jacket, and it's supposedly, the material itself is supposedly waterproof, not just the wax cotton, but I think it's backed with a laminate as well. But there's no attempt to make it completely weather resistant. You know, the pockets are just normal zips, so you know it'll be fine if you're out for a short ride around town and you get it caught in a shower, but it's not going to withstand a day in the rain for sure. So anyway, I've come to the conclusion that the alternative to spending ridiculous amounts of money on a jacket, which I'm not going to do, or at least not at the moment, is to go the other way and just get a cheap over jacket. And so I've got one of these. It's literally 25 quid, Oxford rain seal. You know, it's just a waterproof over jacket, nice and simple. So you can see the concept there. It's pretty straightforward, right? It's just made of a really waterproof material. It doesn't have lots of pockets and zips and vents and all that sort of stuff to contend with. You know, so really just the one main zip, which has lots of doubles and all the rest of it. And then the cuffs are important, obviously. But conceptually, you can see that you're in a lot better place with a very cheap bit of kit to actually keep the water out. And so I've decided to go with that approach for my next big trip, which is hopefully coming up in about a week. First big expedition up to Scotland, so I may well need some rainproofing, is my theory. I said, yeah, why do you say that? Well, I think you all know why I say that. So anyway, so that is the strategy, and I've also gone to wearing gauntlet style overgloves, so you might be able to see these are actually Kais heated gloves, but they've got a good gauntlet style wrist area that goes over the outside of the jacket. So now I figure I've got multiple layers of defence, because presumably this jacket in itself is simple, cheap, but it should be very watertight, and to the extent that anything gets through, then I've got my wax cotton jacket underneath, and actually it's more than well capable of dealing with some seeps, and then hopefully the gloves will deal with the water going up the sleeves issue. There we go. So it's a bit more of an adventure ride than I had anticipated, I'm not going to lie. There we go, see? I guess I got my adventure boots and my adventure bike. So I guess this is what we do it for, isn't it? Anyway, this was supposed to be a test ride, so to be fair. Right, so that's about it really at the moment, isn't it? I suppose the other big issue I've come up with is visor fogging, which is a bit of a perennial. I know sort of the ultimate solution is a pin lock, and I've got another helmet with a pin lock in it. So there is a simple question of, should I just get a pin lock for this helmet? Hang on a second, let's just deal with the road conditions. Well, I guess this is one of the reasons that I don't drive at great speed on these roads at the best of times, let alone when it's like this. So pin lock, yes, so I realise that's kind of the ultimate solution. I'm sort of experimenting with other things, anti-fogs, everything else. At the moment, so what is this helmet? It's a Nolan GT. I need to do a video on it. It's a Nolan helmet it's open face, or it can be completely open face. It's got a little bar, chin bar, reinforcing chin bar that you can take out. It just clicks out, so it can be completely open face. But it's a nice little open face style touring helmet, big visor, so big visible area, and a peak. So I very much enjoy an open face helmet, and I realise the trade-offs that one's making there. In terms of in a crash, you definitely want a full face helmet. You don't want to crash, but if you do, there's no doubt whatsoever that a full face helmet is the way to go, and I don't doubt that either. But I really like an open face helmet. I just like it. I guess it just goes back to my dirt biking roots and the wind in my face and all the rest of it. And yet, although I have full face dirt biking helmets these days, they're relatively open compared with a motorcycle helmet. So I have a completely open face helmet that I use for local riding, and I really like it. It's very lightweight, it's very comfortable. It is a bit of a safety compromise, there's no dispute about that, but I figure for local riding, so mostly 30 mile an hour stuff, is no big deal. And the other thing is, I'm a great believer that when you look at drivers, then being able to see your face as a person, I think that makes a difference to how they treat you. And when you look at the driver and they look at you, and of course, I suppose it helps that someone like me, I'm obviously an aging rocker and I've got a bit of a grey beard, so I don't suppose too many people, even boy racers, sort of get up in the morning thinking, oh, I'll knock over some old man off his motorbike today. So anyway, I think, and maybe it's wrong, maybe it's just my psychology, but I think when I look at drivers with an open face helmet and roundabouts in it around town, I think that it makes a difference to how they behave compared with when I've got my fuller face helmets on. That's just my theory, but I guess we're all entitled to make our choices based on our theories and beliefs, aren't we? So I really like it, but I do also accept that it's not ideal for open road work. The safety compromise there is probably just a little bit too much, and also I just think a peak is really, really useful. It surprises me that more road riders don't have them here in the UK, because often, particularly in the morning when I'm usually sort of going out and around on the bike in a commuting type sense, commuting to the gym and stuff like that, the sun can be very, very low, and even sunglasses don't really deal with the sun strike you get. So I like having a little peak, which you can just tip your head down, and it's just like a sun visor in your car and actually blocks the sun out. So this one just has a little peak. It's not huge, it has a couple of positions, it's well vented, doesn't cause me any trouble in terms of lifting the helmet, and I really like this helmet. And it has this security bar, which clipping in and out, people will say, oh, that's not going to work very much, but actually it's incredible when you clip it in. The helmet is so much stiffer to get on, it's just not even funny. So I really have to squeeze, because I've got a nice fitting helmet, as you should do. So actually, when I found out how much difference it made to the feel of the helmet, putting it on and off, it actually gives me quite a bit of confidence that Nolan's designers have got this little bar, and it's pretty solid. So it's not as good as a really tight, big, full face helmet with a small visor. I'm not saying that at all. But for me, it's a really good compromise, and I really like it. And it's almost like having a completely open face helmet. I can see the bar in the bottom of my vision, but only just. So yeah, I should really do something on the helmet, because I really like it, and I'm sure that other people who prefer a more open face experience might like that trade-off as well. I have to say, I had to do quite a bit of hunting to find it. There's not too many helmets that have this sort of balance of the trade-offs, you might say. But anyway, so I have not gone to the pin lock on it yet, partially because that long story of taking it through is my sort of open face preferences. Also, I prefer as little interference, with my sight as possible, and I tend to wear good quality sunglasses, and so multiple layers of visors are an irritation that I can. It irritates me. It's a personal thing, isn't it? Like a lot of this stuff, it's personal, and so that's why I haven't put the pin lock in yet. But it is a trade-off at the moment. With this visor, it does steam quite badly, but you can just click it open one notch, which is where I've got it now, and that seems to do a pretty good job even in extreme conditions. And I've not had any problems with water running down from the top of the helmet, so I don't know whether that means the little seal at the top is still relatively secure on one notch open, but anyway, in practice that just hasn't been an issue with water running down from the top when popped to one notch, so that's pretty good too. So anyway, where have we got to? I suppose the last sort of thing is, so this is my sort of setup now that I'm going to try in Scotland for cold weather touring, in potentially very bad weather. And I had hoped, basically the story is that, I've sort of learned the hard way, like a lot of you people, if anyone's listening to this, you know exactly what I mean. We learn the hard way, don't we? And one of the things that I often do is I guffaw and tut at people on YouTube who go out on their big trip with all their new kit, and on the first few days they find this and they find that, and they go, oh, blimey, mate, it's like, get your new gear and, use it before you go on a big trip. Do some rides, blah blah blah. Don't be a twit. And so I sort of tut, and what's happened is that I've bought this rain gear probably a couple of months ago, really. And I would have thought by now I would have had plenty of chances to use it, but actually we've had an extraordinarily dry period in the UK throughout the time, wouldn't you know it? And there just hasn't really been the opportunity. Now I'm a week out from departure, so I figure I woke up this morning, Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, the rain's pitter-pattering down as the forecaster said it would, and it's like, well, if I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the week. If I want to go for a test ride, now's the time, right? The forecast is that this will last for an hour or two, so I'll head out for an hour and see what happens. Told the better half that I was heading out to ride the bike in the rain. I think she thought I was joking, until she saw I was up with a cup of tea and I got my gear out, and she sort of gave me the, you're going out for a ride now sort of thing. It's like, yep, it's only one way to test wet weather gear properly, and that's to ride it in wet weather, right? Anywho, that's probably about it, and I've waffled on for far too long. I'll let you know at the end of the video whether we've got a pass or a fail. We'll see, fingers crossed. I'm sort of confident, but as anybody biker knows, until you've actually done it, you don't want to be overly confident. These puddles are giving a good test of whether the water gets up over the top of my boots. Hopefully not. They feel okay at the moment, but actually that can be hard to tell as well too, right? Because the water warms up in your boots. But I think I'm fine at the moment, so we'll see. All right, that's probably it for now. Thanks for listening. Ciao.
Okay, so here we are back at home plate, into the garage out of the rain. And how did we go at the end of the day? Well, all good. Dry as a bone. At least I wasn't until I started taking the gear off. So now it looks all good. Looks like we're set to go. And once again, if anybody has been brave enough to listen to the end of this video, thank you very much indeed. And ride safe out there. Ciao for now. Bye.